This is Catherine reporting for the radio broadcasting channel. Right now we have the opportunity to interview the president during one of his fireside chats. Millions across the country will be tuning in for this broadcast.
Thank you for joining me today, Catherine. We are in a decade of darkness, the days of a Great Depression. However, believe me when I say this. Do not fear the upcoming days. These days will provide a brighter future for the youth, and this depression will fade. New policies and acts are being brought up daily so we can conquer our darkest days.
Mr. President, what do these programs entail? How will they help the people get through the depression?
Some of these programs will provide jobs to Americans. For example, the CCC is a Civilian Conservation Corps. This program allows unmarried men to work and earn wages to send back to their families. Through the work of these gentlemen, our national parks and cities will be restored. While other programs and acts are made to help stimulate our economy, like the Beer and Wine Revenue Act, which I know some of you will enjoy because it legalizes the sale of beer and wine with alcohol content less than 32.2%.
Mr. President, you have even created agencies that aid in the housing of Americans. Can you tell us more about that?
The NHA is the National Housing Act. This act will provide housing for low and no income families. When the stock market crashed, people were forced out of their homes by foreclosing banks, so this could be the first step to help those people who are suffering get back on their feet.
These are all wonderful ideas, Mr. President, but how do you plan on paying for these agencies, Mr. President? We are now in an economic downturn and have no way to pay for all of this.
Well, we all have to make sacrifices for the greater good. In a show of good faith, I have decided to enact the Economy Act. Unfortunately, this will cut the pay of government workers in our armed forces and also cut government spending by 25%. But I pledged myself to a new deal for our Americans, and once I was elected for the American people, and I plan to bring that pledge through.
Thank you, Mr. President, for what you have done to help this country. Now that we've heard from our marvelous Mr. President, let's take a listen to you. Miss Evelyn, how are you today?
Hello, Catherine. I'm doing well, thank you.
Wonderful. So I've heard you have some experience with one of these New Deal agencies. Is that correct?
Indeed, I found work through the NYA.
Wonderful. And what exactly do you do?
I want to do all I can to help my family through these trying times, and the NYA provided me with an education and found me a position working in this library.
Well, isn't that quaint? Aren't you the only one you know who's working through the NYA?
Absolutely not. My beau, or excuse me, a dear friend of mine, found work refurbishing furniture. He loves the work, and he's more than glad to put his hands to use. You know, he can be a bit of an Abercrombie, but he's really cute as a bug's ear. This one time, I'm sorry, sir, this isn't about me, is it? As I was saying, quite a few of my friends have found work through the NYA, and they even have employed 4 million other kids like me. Many college students have found work doing things like cancer research, working with scientists in flood studies and experimenting with crops, healthcare, building and repairing. If you're lucky enough, they can find you work doing almost anything.
Yes, ma'am. Looks like we have another call.
The WPA was responsible for providing around 8.5 million people with jobs over its 8-year life. Many people were helped by the WPA because it provided work relief. It mostly employed unskilled workers to work on infrastructure.
Hello, Mr. Cecil. Can you tell me how WPA has affected you and the people around you?
The WPA has given me and many of my friends the opportunity to support ourselves and our families, and by creating schools and building up hospitals, which we hope to affect the future by giving people an easy and cheap way to find medical attention and education.
What are some of your upcoming projects?
Well, we plan on working on the Hoover Dam and renovating several parks around the area.
How do you feel about the criticisms about the WPA regarding its efficiency and the cost of the architecture?
Well, I believe that they are putting a lot of money into it solely to help the people of the nation, and that should come first before any criticisms of our efficiency.
We have heard from two individuals that have jobs within the New Deal agencies. Now let's hear from a married woman and how the New Deal agencies have helped her.
The New Deal agencies have helped me and my family a great lot, ma'am.
In what ways, Miss Daisy?
Well, you see, my father and eldest brother died during the Great War, ma'am. It was really a hard time for me and my family. So, during the 20s, when a dashing young man came up and asked for my hand in marriage, I wasn't shy to accept. Within a few months, me and him were happily married. You see, my mother being a widow and all, she came to live with my husband and I. When the stock market crashed, my husband was left without a job, and we had twins on the way. My husband needed to find a job fast, so when the welcome arms of the CCC invited him in, he wasn't shy to accept.
Is that right? I thought only single men could join.
Yes, ma'am. He fudged some of the information on the entry papers. You see, he had to find a job or some way to make a living. Before the New Deal agencies, me and him owned and operated a large goat farm. Now, we've been reduced to just 9 animals. But with the AAA, we should be able to get our breeding business up and running again.
What would the help of the AAA do to help your farm?
The AAA is the Agricultural Adjustment Act. With this act, the government began to buy farmers' goods, helping us out of debt and helping us build back our much-needed business. Hopefully, the New Deal agencies will help enough that my husband can come back home and help me raise our 2 sons. They can be a handful.
Thank you for your time, Miss Daisy. Now that we have chatted with the president and some of the people affected by the New Deal agencies, we gain insight into these groups. If you are in need of help, go and visit one of these groups. Hopefully they can help any and all. Catherine out.